Hidden Object Guru here, joined by...
The Gun Wrangler.
With some Warhammer 40k Martyr.
Of course, in the grim dark future, there is only dimness. Just...
It is bleak and hard to see. I will say that about the game. So you've picked a mission for us. What are we're locating and rescuing survivors?
We are.
That sounds fun.
Sounds like something the Inquisition totally wouldn't do, but
no, not at
here
all.
we are.
But that being said, they might have information we need. And
So
the Inquisition definitely would go and rescue them if that was the case.
Yes, and then torture them to death for the information. That
is how they roll.
That is kind of a lateral movement, gotta say.
They're the Inquisition. They are the worst.
Yes.
All right, so I've got a pistol. I've got my psychic beams. I'm ready to go. This is going to be boss. And you're playing as an assassin, so we're good to go. We watched, as is often the case, we watched some television this week. We watched some very interesting television. Let's start with something that I think people are more likely to have seen. A little show called Man in the High Castle.
Oh, man. I've been a fan of this for a while now. And I finally got the guru here to actually watch it.
Sit down and watch it. And yeah, I've now seen the first 2 episodes, and I gotta say, I'm very intrigued to where it goes, since I'm someone who loved the book. Big fan of the book. Have you read the book?
I have read the book.
Okay, so you remember it pretty well, right?
Fairly well, yes.
Yeah. Good, because I'm interested to... It's interesting going in as someone who's read the book, how it's like the first episode has 0 surprises.
Witness my power.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest change they've made is to interconnect everybody. Like, that's the big difference they've made now. Now everyone is related to each other. Like the girl the girl, our main character, I wanted to say Alyssa, but that's not her name. You know what? Not important what her name is.
Both of us are terrible with names.
Our main character, Alexa Davalos, I know the actress's name.
There you go.
Right. She, of course, in the book, is just someone going to the house of the guy who wrote the novel. Right? And she ends up hooking up with a spy who's there pretending to be, who's looking to kill that guy. Like, it's all very
spy
basic.
Pretending to be another separate spy.
Yes, pretending to be a different spy off to kill that guy. So it's like there's no connection to what's going on with Frink the jewelry designer in way out in San Francisco. Right, that's an entirely different storyline in the book, and they don't tie together really at all. Like, they're just these two different aspects of what's going on. And the weird part is, as I'm watching the show, having her journey start in San Francisco, I'm like, how is she gonna hook up with a guy who's starting his journey in New York? They're on opposite sides of the country. And I could not see at all how they were going to get together. And the answer is they don't. Like, they don't travel together at all. Like, a big.
Do you mind hauling my corpse up, or
where's your corpse?
You're like standing on it, basically.
Yep. Dish. Oh, there it is. There it is. Sorry, I'll go away heal you. You respawned?
I spawned.
Okay, sorry.
Oh well.
I honestly didn't read the screen and see that was your corpse. I apologize.
Yep.
But anyway. What I was going to say was, it's interesting the way they've made that big change, because their whole relationship in the book happens as they are on this epic road trip together to get to Colorado. Right? Whereas here, they just both meet, they just both run into each other, both having reached their destination. And the big change is going to be that they're both stuck there, you know, looking for this guy. And get to know each other that way. So that was a big change I wasn't expecting, but I think I'm on board for it. Like, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. One thing I really liked was not so much recasting as after they shot the pilot, they decided to add another character and get a... I mean, I wouldn't say I was about to refer to him as the bad guy from A Knight's Tale, because I, again, can't remember the actor's name now.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about. He was the bad guy from A Knight's Tale. Famous, universally recognizable reference that everyone makes all the time. But yeah, having him show up as the commander in New York was a nice choice. I like him as an actor. His performance is interesting in the second episode, and it's great kind of seeing what they can do with the character for just a legit American Nazi. To get into why someone signs up to be one, how they believe in this is the best thing for America, like... Because there were plenty of American fascists. There were plenty of, you know, American
there was no
Bund
shortage.
guys. Yeah, there was plenty of American Bund guys. So had someone came along and blown up Washington, D.C., which is what happened here, there are plenty of guys who'd be like, yeah, I'm signing up. I'll run things in New York. I got no hesitation.
I got to say, though, the pilot has some of the best world building in subtle ways, like with the Ash scene, where there's this, like...
So good.
Yeah.
All of the cripples being burned.
Yeah. And this guy just being like, yep, that's what's up.
That's what's on Tuesdays. That's when we burn the cripples. Jesus. I mean, yeah, because that's the thing. Like, once the Nazis won, they don't have to keep this stuff secret anymore. They won. They can just say, no, this is how we're ordering society now.
But, like...
kind of a really nice touch and really creepy because of how pleasant everything leading up to that is.
Yeah, it is kind of this, like, horrifying...
The banality of this horror.
Yes, and like, it's just not something that's out of the normal. It's just like, yeah, what up?
Yeah, like, no one questions it at all. And what I really like about that scene is how, like, I mean, obviously I have to fantasize what... people would think if they don't know he's a Nazi, right? What I love about that scene is the reversal for people coming to this world for the first time of watching the guy hesitating, whereas you get to the end of the episode and you're like, oh, he's got no reason to be hesitant. His papers are great. They came from the Nazis. Like, he's got cover. He's fine. Like, there was no danger to him in that scene whatsoever. Because I know he's a Nazi and I'm watching the scene, so I'm like, are they going to do a thing where he's got the gun in the back of his belt just in case it doesn't work or anything like that? But no, that's not how they play it at all, because he's never in any danger. He's a Nazi. He knows the papers are going to work. He knows...
And he actually shoots another Nazi.
Yes.
Right?
He does shoot one of the other Nazis to help set his cover at the beginning. So that's hardcore. And we get the hint from his boss that he has to shoot another Nazi, right? Because his mission is incredibly off book, because this show has created a great big MacGuffin that is completely new to the show, which is somehow, instead of this being the story of a guy who wrote a book about what if the Nazis lost the war, it's about people who have dispatches from the real world.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big change. Because it's like the book, which I love, right, is like the entire message of the book. Like, the book exists for this wonderful observation, which is true about how fascist societies work, which is... the message of the book is, in a world where Nazis won the war, it would be illegal to write a book where Nazis lost the war. Yeah. Like, that's what the book is about at its core. And it's about a lot of other stuff, too. But
mind dragging these guys over here, by the way?
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize they were following me, but yeah, here
they're following you. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there they are. Right? And what I liked about it, because in the book, there's, like, that one sequence... like, the one kind of head trip sequence is the trade commissioner, right, essentially believes so much in the I Ching, and the I Ching can't lie. Yep. So the I Ching reveals that the Axis lost the war because the I Ching can't lie. And that is, of course, like, the key, but it's not what the book is about, right? It's not the key of what the book is. I can't find the other guy.
There's one more.
One more guy. Do you see him anywhere on the map? Like, there's no little dot on the map for him. It's weird. Yeah.
It's to south, I believe.
Okay, so they've decided to go all the way with that, and and make that question of the two realities. I was not expecting that, and I'm very interested to see where that goes.
You're in for a couple of good surprises
Okay, yeah,
just this season.
Just this season, because we're already on season three. 3 is complete, or is 2 complete?
3 is in post right now.
Okay, so 3 is what's starting in October, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so 3 is starting in October. That's awesome. And I'm interested to see where this goes, because we got a good couple of episodes. We got some solid acting. I was kind of... there's one scene where I'm kind of annoyed, so in the very first scene, her very first scene, in the very first episode, we'd be all like, she's great at judo. And I'm like, well, how long am I going to have to wait for that to pay off? And so then you get this scene where she's going to get thrown off a bridge in the second episode. And I'm like, okay, time for the judo to pay off. And he goes off the bridge into the dam. But as I'm watching that happen, I'm like, is no one worried about the fact that he's got the only evidence? Like maybe just let Joe shoot him? Because you kind of need the film he has. But in an amazing coincidence, luckily, he also dropped the film when they were having a scuffle. So it all worked out. But I'm like,
there's also...
how are they going to get their film back at the bottom of a waterfall?
Well, there's also the fact that I do like the tip of the hat that in that particular scene...
Yeah?
Sorry, I lost my train of thought for
It's
a second.
okay. In that scene, when they're having the fight on the bridge...
I like how it's hinted at previously how there are sections of the Nazi apparat that are at odds with one another.
Yes! Yeah, that was nice, because he's like, no, he's just a deviant hunter, basically. He's a guy who's a freelance out there just looking for any sedition, and that's his full-time job.
No, I don't mean that. I mean the fact that American Nazi actually calls up this dude and is like, yeah, watch out, there's...
Yeah, he's part of another directorate. He doesn't know about your mission. Your mission is secret, so stay away from him.
Yes.
Yeah, because then that's the interesting thing. It's not like he can call this guy and clear this guy's actions, because, well, I mean, in that case, it's largely, I think, because they need to keep the films completely as secret as possible.
Yeah.
That being said, it made me wondering, you already know the answer to this, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of wonder, would our main villain, the Obergruppenführer, be okay with that group of Nazis getting a hold of the film? Because that guy almost gets a hold of the film.
Yeah.
And it's like, it kind of seems like he wouldn't have. So...
Yeah, I'm tempted to say he wouldn't have been, because it would have been just...
Yeah, it's like it wouldn't have led them anywhere, because you got this guy who's just going to turn that in for a plaudit, but it doesn't really get anywhere to what they're trying to accomplish. So I like the idea that you're right, all of these guys in the different parts of the country aren't necessarily working in tandem.
I did like that, and there's also something else. It does come up later, repeated. Okay.
All right. Now, see, I'm interested to see that. Here's one thing I'll criticize in the world building. They're watching at one point, people are watching on television a show that is Nazi Dragnet.
Yes.
Right? But they didn't get a voice actor who could do Joe Friday. It should have been the same actor. It should have been a guy doing that voice to make the point that this is Nazi Dragnet. In the world of this, they kept doing the show, and because of a weird twist of fate, the same actor ended up playing the character. That would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been really quite good,
because it's not like they show you the screen at all. You just hear it happen, and I'm like, come on, get him in there. That would have been fantastic. So,
I kind of feel like what would have been absolutely best.
Yeah.
Would have been something a little closer to Wolfenstein, which is, by the way, fantastic game.
Oh yeah.
Why have you bought it?
Great look
at buy it.
Another great look at Nazi occupied America.
Yes, but Specifically in the ads, they made these great sort of, Nazi Leave It to Beaver, Nazi.
Yeah. In the
Lassie.
first game, there's a whole album by the Nazi Beatles.
There's an entire one in the second album.
Second one as well.
Second
yeah.
game, yeah.
Yeah, they made 2 entire Nazi Beatle albums. Like
It's
really
not Nazi
did a
Beatles, but it's
job.
like a best of sort of thing.
Oh, okay. And the second one, it's not Nazi Beatles?
It's not
It's just
strictly Beatles.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing. Yeah.
All right. So start us up in another mission while I tell you something that I found very interesting about the show, which is giving Frink like this big, and I mean it's a TV, it's that kind of drama, I get it, but giving him this big emotional reason, right? Connected to his girlfriend, connected to his dead family. Because one of the things that's interesting in the book is you've got this guy who's not pivotal to anything, who really is just trying to design jewelry, and his life is so casually ruined by the forces of imperialism.
Yeah.
You know?
They just roll up and they're like, yeah, whatever.
They just roll right over him. And, of course, that becomes a pivotal point for him. Whereas here in the show, and it's because I'm such a fan of the book, I don't know how I feel about him being brought into a central part of the action. Like, I like the idea of just this guy who's not a part of the story, but just because the machine rolls over him, it becomes this amazing trigger. I do like all of the setup for the Nazi politics about who's going to rush in after Hitler dies. That's fantastic. You know,
it's true, but somehow Gundarian's not there.
Yeah. One thing, here's something I didn't believe at all, and it's a minor thing, and I know why they wanted to do it because of the drama and the visual, and it does pair well with with what we're watching. But in a place where I know it's the neutral zone, but in a place where people are nervous to be seen with Bibles, right? And are nervous about like being too outside the law. Like it's a neutral zone, but anything does not go there.
Yes,
clearly.
It is the most neutral of neutral zones.
But I'm just saying, in that place, no way on earth is there a record player with strange fruit ready to just turn on. Just
yes.
No way. There's no way that song is on that jukebox. Just sitting there ready to be played by people who are staying at this place. I didn't buy that at all. And again, it's not a big problem in the least, but you know, it is. I just didn't buy it. I know what they were trying to do in that scene, but it's full on silly. Yay, Black Legion guys! Oh God, I love this. It took me like 5 missions to realize that I could hold down spacebar to click to shoot without accidentally moving if I clicked in a slightly wrong place.
What kind of savage are you? Because that for me literally everyone in the world is Shift.
Everyone out but me has played massively multiplayer online games. I've never played this genre, so like none of the games I play use that mechanic, to the point where the game doesn't clearly tell you at the start because they assume everybody knows this mechanic. So yeah, I felt a little bad about that. I felt a little silly for not knowing that. But yeah, I will say you were totally right about this show. I'm very interested to see where it goes from here. Like it's got me hooked. I was very skeptical because I'm a fan of the book, but I can see that they've taken it in interesting ways, and I'm gonna love seeing how the rest of the season plays out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have anything final to say about the first 2 episodes?
Recoil.
I have to say, one thing I was a little bit disappointed about was it's considerably less.
Yes.
Detail oriented, I guess.
Okay.
Like you know how Counterpart was. Where
yes.
I feel that the entire series would have been much better served with an emphasis on detail like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Kill the heretic.
I just felt like, given the source material, tiny details would have been so so critical to the game, or to not the game,
Yeah,
to the show.
telling that story. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Although, I mean, you've seen more, so I can't speak to it. You're right that it doesn't do the kind of incredible world building that Counterpart did in its first two episodes.
Yeah.
It has some really good world building in it. It's just not on that level. I'm willing to be more forgiving for one reason and one reason only, which is that Counterpart is about a very small number of people in a very small amount of space.
True.
Whereas this show is trying to tell a much bigger story. And, I mean, over, like... Because, let's face it, how long is it going to be before Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa interacts with any of the other characters? Like, I feel like it's going to be a while, because he's just off having his story, right? About the incoming crown prince of Japan showing up and all of that. Like,
it won't be as long as you think.
Really? That's interesting. All right, well, you know what? We'll talk about it when I see the next couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be I'm here for the ride. It's very interesting. Now, let's move on to something I forced you to watch.
Yes.
Which is a show that a lot of people have forgotten about, which is too bad because, and this is how I pitched it to you. And I mean, this isn't going to come into focus in the first two episodes. But I hope you begin to see what I'm talking about soon, which is, in many ways, this is the show that invented modern television. That invented, decompressed, like, got rid of episodic storytelling and moved us towards these sweeping narratives we have today. And this is the show that, in many ways, popularized that in North America. And that show is Wiseguy.
I can agree with that, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting show. It's very, very, very dated.
Oh, God. Oh, my God, is it dated? Yeah, I mean, it is a show of its time. And so to give people a little background, Wiseguy is a television show from the late 80s and early 90s. It is about Vincent Terranova, who is a deep undercover agent for the FBI. And this is how deep an undercover agent he is. They use the term super duck, which is something I enjoy, a couple of times, which never caught on. But it's the concept that what the FBI was going to do, that of course they have, never really done, but it's something that made for good fiction and was always something considered, was they were going to find agents. And before they officially joined the FBI publicly, they were going to set them up with actual criminal activities and have them develop criminal personas under their own identities that are, like, completely background searchable. So, like, you can go and you can meet his brother, and his brother is going to be like, yeah, he's been a hood since he was out of high school. Like, the cover is perfect because it's not a cover. You have been a criminal for 5 years before you ever start. Yeah, you've been a bad guy for 5 years before you ever actually start working for the FBI. That is the premise of the show. That this guy, like, did shady criminal activities for like 2 years. Like, he did a year of training. He did shady criminal activities for 2 years. Then he went to jail for 18 months. And that is where we meet him, getting out of jail when his 18 months are up. And the show takes it from there. And it is very 1980s. Oh my God, is it so 1980s. The villains in the first episode are Eurotrash arms dealers. Basically straight out of a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Or a Sylvester Stallone movie. Like, that's not an exaggeration.
It really isn't.
Seriously, the lead arms dealer is played by, like, I can always blank on his name, but he's the guy who was the lead rapist in The Shawshank Redemption. He was like just this guy who's, I always call him the poor man's Rutger Hauer.
No, that's exactly what he is.
That's what he is. Yeah, he's budget Rutger Hauer, right?
No, that's you're not doing him any disservice. That's exactly what he is.
Yeah. And so your first, and I mean, just this, I watched this show when it originally aired in the 1980s, before you were born.
No, not before I was born. 2 years after I was born.
See, there you go. So I watched this, when I was too young to be watching it, but still, I did watch it. I taped it all when it originally aired. I missed some of it. So, fun fact, I had your wife tape a bunch of it for me.
Yep.
Because she's the only person I knew who had the ability to get episodes of it on TV. Right? So that's... And I still have all those tapes.
That is embarrassing for everyone.
No, it is embarrassing, but there are episodes of these you can't get. Like, that are not available anywhere. So the fact that I have the tapes is actually kind of important. But, we'll get there eventually. I'm not going to spoil things. But yeah, so I already love the show. I already think it's an important show. Blah, 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 blah. As someone seeing it for the first time, what are your impressions of this first couple of episodes?
You know what?
Yeah.
I feel it kind of is... I describe it as a shield. It's the shield of the 1980s. Because I
think that's largely true. Yeah.
Like, I don't feel as attached to the characters, because...
Well, the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. But, also, I just don't feel quite as in-depth with them as I did with The Shield.
Right
and
away.
I think that's mostly a function of The Shield was the best cop drama ever.
Well, I think The Wire is as good as The Shield, but then again, The Wire is as much about the drug dealers as it is about the cops. So
yes,
yeah, it's not. Whereas, and even The Shield, the interesting thing about The Shield is The Shield had its season-long arcs, but it was still episodic. There was still like a crime of the week in episodes of The Shield, but we'll talk about that, the way Wiseguy handles those demands going forward. But I see how you would make a comparison to The Shield. Like, that makes sense. Are there 2 of you?
Oh, yeah, no. My special power is I can actually create clones of myself.
Nice. That's
a
pretty
awesome
dope power. Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is...
Going in. Please.
I don't feel as connected because I understand that as a function of it being 1980s and... people weren't prepared for the reality of reality.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the 1980s, let's put it like this. Right now, you'd be pressed to tell the difference between 1992 Sarajevo and 1987 New York City. So...
Okay, I see your point. It did used to be
maybe they didn't really want what they saw on the street spilling into their living rooms. And I can understand that.
Well, and here's what interests me. So, obviously, the main actor in this is Ken Wall. He briefly had a career surrounding this episode. He was in a couple of movies before this show, but he never really had a career afterwards because he kind of went nuts. He was a very method guy, and doing this show kind of screwed him up, and we're going to talk about that going forward. But the other main character on the show... Oh, yeah, no, he got really screwed up partially by doing the show, and then some other stuff. Addiction to painkillers, which, as you know, happens to a lot of actors. So yeah,
I thought it was mostly cocaine in this era, but okay, yeah, sure, I can work with that.
There were painkiller people, too. But that's something that's going to come up over the course of the show. But the other lead actor is Jonathan Banks, who would take another almost 20 years after this show ended to finally get into the public consciousness. Like, Jonathan Banks has never been out of work since Wiseguy. You can go to his IMDb page and you will see that he's always got work, he's always got a job, he's always, like, playing a part in something. But he was never famous.
Well, you can say that about a lot of the characters on the show, because I recognize a lot of bit actors.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like
everybody
simply
from the first...
spectacular amount. In the first 2 episodes, I'm like...
the first 2 episodes, yeah.
Okay, so 70% of the cast was on an episode of DS9 at some point.
That's so so true. That's completely true. They totally were. Yeah, and the guy who plays Tony Greco, of course, is like a very well-known, like a super well-known character actor you've just seen in tons of things.
Yeah.
Right. So that's nice. Sonny. Sonny, of course, he was a middle to high-end character actor who did plenty of work, but then I believe died of AIDS in the early 90s. So we never. He has largely been forgotten by history, sadly, because I think he's very good as Sonny. But what I love about this show, and this is why I was so excited by the first rewatching the first 2 episodes, is the show begins. There's the guy who recruited into the system, and that guy is working on taking down the Steelgrave organization, which are these 2 mobsters who basically they run the mob in New Jersey City, right? In New Jersey, so they live in Atlantic City. They run the casinos. They run all mob operations in Atlantic City. And what's interesting, and you'll get this going forward, is Atlantic City is always in a precarious position because it is equidistant between Philadelphia and New York City from a question of which one of the prominent Italian Italian and Irish mobs gets to be in control of Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, in the first episode, the guy who recruited Vinny to the program gets killed right off, and we have what looks to be a standard revenge storyline. And then that kind of gets sidetracked when the guy who killed his recruiter gets murdered halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
You were not expecting that, were you?
No, I was not. I was like, huh.
Where's this going now?
Yeah. I thought this was going to be pretty straightforward revenge. I'm like...
That's not at all what the show is. In the least. And... like I said, and the weird part is, it's strange to give people the, I mean, it's weird to say, oh yeah, of course we can exit. I don't want to... It's hard for me to express because I don't want to give anything away, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to. But what I will say is, this pilot is notable, I would say, largely because there's the show they wanted to do, and then there's the show the network wanted, right? And they wanted 80s, early 90s action television. And this thing has car crashes. This episode has rocket launchers. There is an exploding helicopter in the pilot of this show.
I have to say, I mean, I do appreciate the 80s-ness of this. It's like, oh, well, this arm, you know.
Yeah, I know. When he's talking about the MP5 with a rocket launcher on top of it, and he's like, it is a force multiplier capable of turning any army, increasing its power tenfold. I'm like, wow.
No, that's an MP5 with, the most awkward rocket launcher in human history. With a super awkward
RPG on top of it. It's like, how exactly do you aim that rocket launcher?
Please, demonstrate.
I know, it's crazy, and it's so 80s. And I'm just going to tell you, the one thing I will give away is the rest of the show is nothing like that. There is no more of that crazy over-the-top action. Essentially, they wrote that pilot to get the show made, and then they started doing the show to sucker you in. So they could put explosions in the trailer and put explosions on Entertainment Tonight, when Entertainment Tonight show clips of it, and put starting this fall, Wiseguy, and then exploding helicopters all over the television to get people excited. That's never the show they wanted to make. That isn't the show they made. But I'm not going to tell you why. But yeah, the stuff it sets up with Dave Steelgrave and Dave Steelgrave's daughter and all of that stuff, and then Dave gets killed off halfway through, spoiler alert, his daughter's never on the show again.
What?
Yes. Because it doesn't go where you think it's going to go. It isn't the show you think it's going to be. And that's all I'll say about it. But yeah, so it's incredibly 80s though. I'm not going to deny that it's 80s in some bad ways. There's the over the top, oh my god, the woman assassin with that hair.
With that hair, beyond that hair, with, I mean, that Mac 10.
I know. What is she doing with the Mac 10? Like,
it was
Earth?
scurry in the day. Just remember.
I just want to point out, it's so crazy because you could get a gun or two guns under her leather skirt between her legs and just have her firing a couple of guns. But they're like, no, Mac 10. Like, that makes no sense.
It must strictly be a Mac 10. Because it's like...
How?
Okay.
How?
For those of us who are, shall we say, less firearm enthusiastic than I am...
Yes. Thank you.
A Mac 10 is a weapon that you must use at muzzle press distance. So if you are not pressing the muzzle against someone, you will not hit them.
Although, in their defense, it is a very small room. Well, doesn't it have, like, the shortest barrel you have in any submachine gun?
Yes, that's why, like, there's a cone of fire. It doesn't have, like, you cannot hit anything with this weapon.
More than a foot or two away.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, although like, they are in a very small hotel room when they have the fight.
Yeah. But, like, it's one of those things, this is very clearly an MP5, a magazine removed, and someone duct taped some PVC to the top. And they're just like,
yeah.
I can tell you spent all of this on things to explode and not...
Yeah, they did not build a custom weapon for the thing. They did not...
You did not spare any money for props.
No, that is clearly the case. And it's not like there's that many of them either. They just, like, had the 3 MP5s with the PVC pipe on top, and that's what we see over and over again for the whole show. Yeah, there's never more than 3 of them at once. But I gotta say, I found one stunt in the show to be breathtaking. And I know that it's just, maybe it's just me who liked this, but there's a scene where a guy is sitting at the top of a ladder shooting at a helicopter, and he gets shot, and he, like, falls backwards down a ladder and gets tangled up in the ladder cage. Yeah. And I'm like, I was so afraid for that guy.
I'm pretty sure you watched that guy, like, shortly before he went to the hospital.
I know. Like, it was like, that stunt felt too real to me.
You know why that was? Because it was too real, and that guy was...
That guy actually slipped and almost died.
Yes, and that guy got a one-way free trip to the hospital because...
Oh my god. Yeah, it looks nasty.
No, there's... This guy... He broke at least a leg.
Yeah,
at least.
Definitely. At least. Yeah, and so, but overall, you can see how this is, it's definitely different from the 80s television you're familiar with. It's not like this is Knight Rider, but it's also not Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, it's not of the dramas of the time, but it's not of the action shows of the time either. It's this weird midpoint between it that gets, well, I'm not going to tell you what it gets, because I've resolved not to spoil the show for you, but the next 2 episodes, you're gonna be interested in the places it goes.
Okay, I'm willing to put in the work.
And something I liked about it was, like, how they deal with the idea of entrapment, because at the end of the episode, Sonny demands that he kill an FBI agent.
Yeah.
And they fake him killing an FBI agent.
Yeah.
Now, at
one
that
who's been
point,
present through the entire show at this point.
Exactly, who seems like an antagonist for the whole show. And he could have gone on to be. You'll never see him again either.
Right.
Just a heads up. Right. What interests me about it is that the way they handle it is, I mean, could you arrest him for that? The entire thing. Yeah, he asked Vinny to do it, but the whole thing was a setup by the FBI. And the real question is, and this becomes a theme, the one thing I'll tell you is a theme throughout the show is, there's always there is always the understanding that at any point they could put Sonny Steelgrave in jail, but there's no use in putting a mobster in jail because Sonny will never testify against the rest of the mobsters.
Yeah.
They have to they have to get the entire commission if they want to make a dent. If Sonny goes away, there'll be another Sonny.
In fact, at his, after he's been shot, he's sitting there, and his cousin's like, oh, hey, I thought you weren't going to make it for a second there.
No, his cousin who comes up from Miami to take over. Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's the whole mob. There's the commission, right? And dealing with Sonny Steelgrave isn't the problem. The commission, the world of the mafia, is the problem, right? It's the guys who, as Vinny says in the scene he has with his brother, it's the guys who make everybody's lives miserable. It's the guys who take a couple of bucks out of everybody's paycheck. That's the problem. And so that's what I find very interesting about the show, is it has this very open-eyed look at organized crime in America and the causes of it and possible solutions for it.
No, I think it's very much, it's an antiquated notion of organized crime.
Well, that's true. Although that being said, you got to remember the period of time of the show, it was not, of course, antiquated. This was the time.
No, it was. It was
Gotti was getting away with everything.
Gotti was getting away with everything, but the mob was on its last legs. The Russians already owned everything from Brighton Beach to Miami. So,
well, no, the what do you call it? That all happened in the 90s.
No, it didn't.
Oh no, you're right. It started in the late. You're right. It started in the 80s. You're right. It started in the late 80s.
Yeah.
They were taking over Brighton Beach. But the thing is, the mob was still in force, and it's the mob busting of the late 80s and early 90s that completely crippled and made the mob irrelevant, and that's where this show starts off.
No, the mob crippling was in the mid 70s to early 80s. This is pop culture.
The last gasp stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's pop culture catching up with it, which is where we get, what was it, 7 years later, The Sopranos, where the mob is just, a bunch of old felons sitting around.
Yeah, but this is specifically about the, you're right that they were less and less relevant by this time, but it's Gotti in the press is part of what underpins this show. But you know what? We'll talk about it as it goes. Because you'll understand why I have stuff to say about this. But it is crazy to think that the mob was frigging running the New York Police Department throughout the 70s, and then they all got crushed. They all went down. But yeah, I don't know if you ever watched that documentary about the most corrupt police precinct in New York.
77? Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
77.
It's well known.
So
I actually
fascinating.
No, during the 70s.
Oh yeah.
It was almost entirely corrupt to the point where, American Gangster.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's happened.
that actually happened.
That all actually happened. Well, no, and it's funny in that documentary. I love the part of the documentary. Well, first off, people should watch that documentary. It might still be on Netflix because the one about the 77th, right? Because a good amount of time is spent with a guy who was he's out of jail now and he's still rich now, but who was one of the biggest drug distributors of the 1970s.
Oh, yeah. No, Robert Cena. I have his book.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. They spend a lot of time with him in the documentary, and it's fascinating. But they keep cutting to the story of this one cop, and who is in many ways the most corrupt cop you've ever seen, who would just show up for work in a Corvette. It's who can't even be bothered to pretend he's not corrupt. It's he just drives to work in a Corvette. And it's you're a cop. You're making $23,000 a year. And you got 3 houses and a boat, and you're showing up for work in a Corvette. Do you not even care about being caught? But he's 70s are going to go on forever. Nobody's ever going to care.
Well, I'm going to point something out.
Yeah.
If you pay your cops, the people who are in contact with enormous sums of money.
I know. If you pay them peanuts, this is what happens.
All right, so for any future lawmakers out there, whatever the salary of your cops is, triple it. Because
it's true. You know, it's so true. Because it's like...
Well, it's something that comes up in The Wire. In the first season, where you've got these guys working in Baltimore for $32,000 a year as detectives and sergeants, and they see $450,000 on someone's bed.
What are you supposed to do with that?
What in your right mind tells you that as soon as everyone else is out of the room, they aren't going to be stuffing bundles and rolls of cash?
10 grand bundles into their pockets. It's like you got cops being paid $32,000 a year, and you've got corner boys moving that much product in a week.
Yes.
Like, this system makes no sense. Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, it's one of those things, like, whatever ICE is getting paid, just, you know what? Add a couple of zeros to it. Because, you know, there's these guys who are stationed out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Getting rich because, you know, they're getting paid $42,000 a year to keep out
ICE
illegals.
isn't the problem. The Border Patrol is the problem. They're the
Border
ones
Patrol,
who are all corrupt.
it's all the same thing because guess what? If you pay them shit, this cartel dude with more money than God's gonna roll up and be like, okay.
Hey, here you go. Have... I love that famous story of the guy who they caught who was just like had this whole patch of the desert that was his, who was just letting them drive all the drugs they wanted to across the border. When they arrested him, it's like they found in his safe a gun that was engraved with like, "Thanks for all of your service to the Sinaloa cartel."
Yeah, and the guy...
He's like, "You're such a good member of our cartel. Here's a like commemorative gun for all the crimes you've committed."
Well, beyond that...
He's a Border Patrol agent. Yeah.
Beyond that, like, he ended up...
Yeah.
Like, that dude, I think is serving 17 years.
Something like that.
Do you know how worried he is?
I'd imagine.
Not at all.
Worried is he? Yeah, because they've got his back.
Well, first of all, he goes into prison even as a cop.
Yeah.
Like, MS-13 and Amy will make sure this man has whatever he wants for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And beyond that, he probably has, like, Walter White levels of cash just buried.
Just stuck away somewhere for whenever he gets out.
Yes.
True.
Like,
if he keeps his nose clean in prison, I'm sure he'll be fine for the rest of his life.
he'll be paroled in, like, 5 years.
It's true. Yeah.
Like,
he couldn't do 5 years for that $12 million he's got squirreled away.
Shit. If you're listening, Sinaloa, right here, man. All
right. So now I'm going to cut this off here before we encourage criminals to contact you for job offers. I'm going to stop that there. Seriously, though, we're going to be back next week with who knows what yet. Gun Wrangler might have gotten Sniper Elite 4 by then, in which case we'll be playing Sniper Elite 4. We might do more of this. We've still got to get around to Dead Rising at some point, so we got plenty of stuff to cover.
I'm actually kind of liking Grimdark Diablo.
Yeah, Grimdark Diablo is nice. So we also may come back for a little more Martyr. Who can say? But now, do you have a quiz for Man in the High Castle?
Ooh.
It's tough because I know you've read the book as well, so I thought you might have something.
And I'm trying not to give away spoilers.
How
about this? What is Joe transporting across America?
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's actually that's a good question. What is Joe transporting across America? Nice. All right, so
And by the way, if you answer the tape, you're
no.
disqualified in perpetuity from
No, I mean, like, what's
all
in the
further
trunk?
giveaways.
What is in the truck that is, you know, covering up the tape?
Yes.
Yeah, like, the tape is what he's really moving, but what's in the trunk? Right. Okay, so yeah, that'll be that. Put that comment in the comment section below the video if you want to answer. We will see you back here for more next time. More Wiseguy. We'll do... do you think we should do... oh, wait, it's not starting until October, right? And they only do 10 or 12 episode seasons?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think if we should kick it up to 3 episodes per week for High Castle or keep it at 2. What do you think?
Okay, let's keep it at 2 for now.
Okay. And then if it looks like we're coming up against a deadline, we can always increase it. Because I know you've got stuff you're going to have to do in September, too. So.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we may kick that up, but we'll see.
Actually, you know what? Let's bump it to 3 because... Okay. Yes, that thing I have to do in September, which is kind of major.
Yeah, there's a bunch of planning to do and blah, 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 blah. I understand completely. So yeah, we're going to kick it up to 3, and we'll also negotiate what amount of Wiseguy. But there's no time pressure on Wiseguy. It's not like they're bringing back Wiseguy.
Yes, there are
Jonathan Banks Jonathan Banks already has a perfectly good job.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, speaking of, that's coming back next week.
The what?
Better Call Saul coming back next week.
Oh, but not on Netflix because...
No, not on Netflix. You're going to have to wait 8 months for it to be on Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's coming back for people with AMC. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see you back here next week for more Wiseguy and more High Castle. But until then, au revoir.